Jim Harold's Crime Scene is brought to you by Wink, my wine service of choice. Wink is offering our audience members who are 21 and over and who live in the U.S. a $25 credit plus free shipping on their first order of 4 bottles of wine as a new member of Wink. Go to trywink.com/Jim. That's TRYWINC.com/Jim, or text Jim to 25829 to get the deal. Thanks, Wink. The crimes, the criminals, why did they do it? Who got hurt? Did they meet justice or commit the perfect crime? You'll find all the clues at Jim Harold's Crime Scene. Welcome to the Crime Scene. I am Jim Harold. So glad to be with you once again. When you think about some of the scariest things in life, a lot of people have a fear of public speaking or a fear of death, but another big fear has to be the fear of being incarcerated, losing your freedom. Unimaginable to many of us who have never been on the inside and hope to never be. But today we're going to talk to a man who has been on the inside, served hard time. He's going to tell us what it's about. It should be fascinating. I'm talking about Shawn Attwood. He's been a stock market millionaire. He has been in league at one point with a mafioso, and as a result, you'll find out what happened. And then he found himself facing a 200-year sentence. Ended up serving almost 6 years of hard time. He's also the author of his life story, The English Shawn Trilogy, which includes Party Time, Hard Time, Prison Time, and a self-help book, Life Lessons. Now, he presently lives near London, and we're going to talk to him about what he's doing these days to talk to students and so forth, and what it's like to be on the inside. Shawn, welcome to the program today.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jim. Cheers from London.
Good to have you on the program. So I guess let's start from the beginning. I mean, you sound like you're English. How did you end up over here in America, and how did you end up a millionaire?
Okay, I had aunts and uncles living in Phoenix, Arizona. So coming from a small northern town in the UK, little chemical manufacturing town, I had a very generous aunt, and she would fly me over when I was a teenager, and I'd notice coming into Phoenix, the swimming pools in the backyards, the houses on the hills, up in Paradise Valley. And when I got off the plane, the heat would hit me, and anyone who heard my accent, my British accent, would roll out the red carpet. This was like paradise for me as a young person. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, America has got the highest economic growth in the world. I'm interested in the stock market. Maybe I can make a living out there. I got interested in the stock market as a young person. 14, my economics teacher started to give me classes on my own, explained how all the numbers in the Financial Times, how they worked and what they meant. And at 16, I actually borrowed £50 from my grandmother, invested it in British Telecom shares. They doubled first day of dealings, and I was hooked. Went down to the library, ordered dozens of books on the subject. And I'm telling all my mates in my little town, I'm going to go to America, make $1 million, fly you guys over. That was my dream. So I actually did. I followed through, and that's what happened.
Now, here's the question. Okay, you're in America. You're a millionaire. Stock market, ostensibly, I'm assuming that was all above board. Yep. But then you get in league with some rough characters, and you start doing things that are not above board. I guess the first question is why? I mean, you've come to America. You've built this great life for yourself. You've made this money legitimately. I mean, I know some people ethically have issues with the stock market or whatever, but it's certainly legal. So my question is, why take that turn down that road?
My relationship with drugs was for over a decade long, and I went deeper and deeper into the lifestyle. It started when I was a teenager. I just passed my driver's license test. I went up to fill my mum's little red car with petrol, and 4 drunks started behaving abusively towards me, and I thought it was brave to stand up to them. That was a mistake. They got me down, they were kicking me in the head, One pulled out an iron bar and was hitting me in the face, knocked pieces of my teeth out. My whole body went warm and numb. I thought I was getting murdered, basically. So that compounded my normal teenage anxiety. When I went out, I wouldn't talk to women, I wouldn't dance, too self-conscious, wouldn't talk to strangers. But when the rave scene began in the UK, I took ecstasy and all my stress and tension melted away. Unfortunately, the drug became my crutch. For over 10 years, I didn't think I was an interesting enough person to be around unless I was high. And when I was high, I was dancing all night, hugging people all night, making friends with strangers. So when I came to America, I made a couple of million in the stock market during the dot-com bubble. And I was only in my 20s, and the money went completely to my head. I was emotionally immature. It started out with me showing off, just buying my friends drugs. And I did see the business potential of it. I got greedy. I've got a business studies degree. I applied that knowledge. And it built up to the point where I was importing 30 to 40,000 pills at a time from Holland. And I was clicked up with the New Mexican Mafia. They were protecting me. I had about 200 people working for me at that point in time. So America was good to me. I knowingly broke the law. I take full responsibility what happened. And May 16th, 2002 was when the SWAT team smashed my door down.
Now, and then I want to get into the hard time part, because boy, is that tough to imagine. But here's the question. I've always wondered this about people who participate in crime where they have other options. Not that I'm saying that any crime is justified, but if somebody's poor and they're looking for $50 and they knock off a liquor store, I don't condone that, but to me, you can understand it a little more than maybe somebody who's already a millionaire deciding to, make a business out of drug dealing. So here's my question. What's the psychology? Do you just never think you're going to get caught? Because to me, if nothing else, even if I had no ethical concerns about it, I would just say, I'm going to do that. They all get caught or dead. Is that part of is there a denial there? Why would you think you could get away with it, either with the law or even dealing with these really tough mafioso types?
Drugs erode your conscience, and it happens slowly over time. I surrounded myself with people who were equally addicted, and we all went over that slippery slope together, reinforcing each other's behavior, and no one putting the brakes on. As a person from the UK that had anxiety and was shy, suddenly I'm throwing parties for 2,000 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people. I'm running around with all my bouncers, these tough guys. I've got people coming up to me all night long, thanking me for the party, thanking me for the ecstasy. Can you imagine what kind of effect that has on someone in their 20s?
Sure.
It's all ego. It's feeding. My ego became as big as the Grand Canyon, basically.
So you never thought, geez, I'm going to get killed or locked up. You just thought you were kind of above it in that sense.
Drugs scrambles your decision-making processes. It tells you you're the man. You're a character out of a movie now, like Pulp Fiction, like Blow, like Scarface. You Mr. Cool Guy. You got to keep doing this, man. Look at all the attention you're getting. The drugs is telling you that over and over and over, and you just go with it. It wasn't until I sobered up in the jail and I saw the horror of what drug use leads to, because 90% of the prisoners were shooting up heroin, 2/3 had hepatitis C. And I looked at this from a clear perspective now. A cloud had lifted out of my head. Drugs were put in there, and I was utterly horrified. And I realized I'd put people on that road of drug use, and I knew I couldn't change my past. So I pledged to go out and share my story in the hope young people wouldn't make my mistakes.
Now, inside, when you were locked up and the realization you were going to have to do some time, what does that feel like when the bars slam?
Well, when you first go into Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail, and you're in a series of holding cells called the Horseshoe, packed in there, 30 people in a room, like absolutely sardined. These are people who've newly been arrested, drunk, high, fights are breaking out, guards are running in every now and then, slamming the door, grabbing somebody, people are acting up. If you act up too crazy, the guards grab you, they put you in a restraint chair, looks like a medieval torture device, and strap a spit hood on your head. It's like something out of Dante's Inferno, basically. So my heart is going ding, 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 for several days in a row. If you've ever held a little animal, a bird or a mouse, and you felt its heart going like that, when I lay down on my mattress, I get a skinny mattress like a yoga mat kind of thing just to lie on. I couldn't even sleep. My heart just going ding, 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 ding all night long. So it took about 3 or 4 days for me actually to get to sleep. And prisoners started coming up to me saying, you've got to get that look of shock off your face, or else you're the one who's going to be getting your head bashed against the toilet next, because the violence was constant. You know, I got used to the sounds of heads getting bashed against toilets, bodies getting thrown around, saw people getting carried out on stretchers who looked like they were dead. One guy got smashed in the shower pretty quickly early on in my stay, suspected child molester. The Aryan Brotherhood prison gang left him whimpering in a pool of blood. And then this big guy with cobwebs tattooed on his neck just says, how come we can still hear him? Like, oh, we smashed him good, dog. And like, oh, not good enough. So he's got this guy's head like crack, 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 like he's trying to break it open like it's a coconut. So they did it until this guy looked dead. Guard does a security walk every 20, 30 minutes, comes in, sees this guy lying there, yells, lock down, everybody lock down. We go back to our cells. Medical team come in, gets carried out on a stretcher. You know, I've never seen damage to a human being like this before at this level. And when he's getting carried out, there's not just blood coming out of his head, there's yellow fluid like brain stuff.
Ugh. Wow. Now, I guess that's, well, I want to back up a little bit. Now, reading your bio, it said that you were subject possibly to a 200-year sentence. And then I think you were sentenced to something like 9.5 years, and you did a little less than 6. I mean, it sounds like you probably had a pretty good defense team or something to get that sentence down.
In America, your sentence is determined by how much money you've got and who your lawyer is. And I had Alan Simpson, and he was a lawyer that had been recommended to me by the New Mexican Mafia. So my parents are not wealthy people, but they remortgaged the house, came up with a large sum of money. And basically, we spent 26 months fighting that case because over 100 people were arrested with me. Only 4 cooperated. In Sammy the Bull's case, all 57 co-defendants cooperated. So they had a pretty weak case at the end of the day, but because I'd actually quit the deal in a year before I'd been caught, naively, I thought they had to catch you with the drugs. But there's something called a statute of limitations. All it takes is someone 7 years previous to say you sold them drugs and they've got you.
Now, back to prison itself. I mean, it seems to me if you're like a normal guy of a normal build, you know, not like a, you know, I was looking at you on the on your webpage. You look like a normal guy, maybe not a bodybuilder. I don't know. You probably were in good shape, but not like these hardened criminals. I mean, is it just a given that you're going to get the crap beaten out of you?
It's raw survival of the fittest. If I'd have gone in there on my own, I would have been annihilated by these gang members. Over 100 people were arrested with me, including some of my bouncers from the rave parties, and also my best mate, who was one of my protectors, Wildman, from my hometown. He's a massive guy. So word quickly spread throughout the jail that we were one of the biggest cases in there. We had a lot of co-defendants. So people left us alone pretty much early on because we were looking out for each other. Once I got separated from my co-defendants, I did get attacked. And, like you mentioned, I'm not a big, tough guy. I got attacked by a 20-stone biker who was also an Aryan Brotherhood member. And that didn't end up very well for me at all.
As a case, I mean, you don't have to necessarily do anything to anybody. If they just decide they're in a bad mood that day and you look like an easy target, you're dead meat. Is that basically it?
The gang is structured so that the probates, the trainees, are looking for people to smash so that they can earn their reputations in their tattoos. That's how they rise up in the gang. To be a full member of the gang, such as the Aryan Brotherhood, you have to murder someone for them in the jail. So the gang leaders in each area, it's called the head of the race because it's all racial. And if the head of the race tells his torpedoes, the underlings, to go in and smash someone, they will do so, no questions asked. Otherwise, they'll get smashed. That's why they're called torpedoes. They'll just go in and do whatever this guy says. And they're enthusiastic to do it. They want their tattoos.
Now, other than having protectors like you did early on, what can you do to kind of save yourself? I mean, is there anything that you can do, or are you pretty much helpless?
Well, the degree at which you are at risk depends upon your charges. So as soon as you go in, the gang charge checks you, which means they come up and they're like, what are your charges? So these 4 skinheads tell me to get into a cell at the back of the pod. And you know you can't say no to these guys. So they got me up against the wall. They're like, what are your charges? What are your charges? And I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know prison etiquette yet. And I've read my charges. And I don't understand what they mean. So I'm like, I'm not sure what they mean. They're like, what do you mean you don't know what they mean? Are you a chomo? Are you a chomo? I don't know what a chomo is either. So I'm making things 10 times worse. They're about to smash me. Anyway, a chomo is a child molester. In the end, I pulled out my charge sheet because the jail gives you a little printout. And once they saw I was in for drug charges and that my bail was set at $750,000, they were impressed by that, so they left me alone.
And go ahead.
If you're a sex offender, though, it's KOS, which means kill on sight.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. That there is, and I'm not for violence, but you can't feel too sorry for some of these people who go in or maybe taking advantage of children or things like that. That's where maybe I have a lot less sympathy for what's going on. I guess there is a justice meted out to those people who mistreat children.
It's called convict justice.
Now, talking about the conditions in prisons, I think a lot of people have this sense of that, they get free cable TV and they get, 3 squares a day, and it's like a country club. Now, obviously, from your description, nothing could be further from the truth, but can you talk about the living conditions inside?
The remand jail conditions were the worst, and bear in mind, these are unsentenced inmates, so they're not supposed to be getting treated as harshly as the sentenced prisoners. Yet it was, well, I'll describe it. So breakfast, mouldy bread and green bologna. Green bologna, raw sausage meat, gone past its sell-by date, got a green shine to it. A lot of the food was in boxes businesses were throwing away because it had expired. Mold on the bread, blue, green. Sometimes our mold came in these fantastic psychedelic colours that looked like works of art. And we're so hungry we just scratched the mold off the bread, put the bread in water because it's stale and swill it to get it down. Evening meal, mystery meat slop we called Red Death. Looked like carroty vomit blended with blood, all kinds of random meat in it, and it stunk. Now occasionally there was a dead rat in it. One time we gave a rat back to the guards. We complained, said they would investigate, came back later in the day and so jail won't get any trouble, said it was just a potato. So there wasn't much we could do. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, back then, he was bragging. It cost him more to feed his police dogs than his prisoners, and his police dogs were working for a living. He said it cost 50 cents or less per day to feed each prisoner the rotten food. The other thing was that they used heat as a form of punishment. Almost 50 degrees. On your scale, how hot it is in Arizona in the summer. It's up, 120 something? And we had what's called a swamp cooler, which barely worked. So the building heats up in the day and it stays hot all night long. You start to get these skin infections and bed sores that itch and bleed. At one point, it looked like I've dropped battery acid on my leg. So you're itchy with all this business going on your skin. But when you're sweating constantly and you're stinking like a wet dog in one of these cells, the bottom line is that your skin starts to turn soggy. So you get the itchiness, scratch yourself, and clumps of your own skin just detach under your nails. One of the hardest parts for me was just lying in this pool of sweat at night and the itchiness keeping me awake. My second year in, I got moved over to maximum security, and the other thing that kept me awake was the cockroaches. 8 at night, we were sent back to our cells. 10 was lights out, and the cockroaches, they would literally line up in the cracks in the walls like an army waiting to invade. As soon as the lights went out, they just flooded the room. So all you can do is wrap a sheet around you to keep them off you, but that traps the heat to your body. And like I mentioned, you got all these bleeding and itching skin infections and bed sores. It's unbearable, so you end up just throwing the sheet off and let the cockroaches crawl on you. Fortunately, they don't bite. They start out tickling your feet, limbs. To this day, if anyone tickles my hands, I flinch. I woke up so many nights from tickling my hands. They get on your face, try and get in your mouth, your nose. They love to get in your ears to eat your earwax because it's like honey to them. I had a neighbor who was asthmatic. Woke up one morning, out of breath, grabbed his inhaler, took a blast, shot a live cockroach inside himself, starts freaking out, saying he could feel it inside him moving around. He threw up his stomach contents, but it was stuck inside him and it wouldn't come out. Even in the daytime, there were so many prisoners were doing cockroach races and gambling on the winner.
Oh, my gosh. Now, we've got more to come here. We're talking about Hard Time. Our guest is Shawn Attwood. We'll be back right after this on The Crime Scene. Jim Harold's Crime Scene is brought to you by Winc, my wine service of choice. Winc is offering our audience members who are over 21 and who live in the U.S. a $25 credit plus free shipping on their first order of 4 bottles of wine as a new member of Winc. I got to tell you, and I've said this before, and this is the God's honest truth, I used to stay away from wine because I think I was kind of scarred. Early on, when I started in the work world, I worked at this highfalutin classical station. Actually, I loved working there. But anyway, I would go to these wine parties with these much older and much richer people, and they would have wine, and they'd be going, oh, nice legs, nice legs. And I was totally turned off. I thought, wine is not for me. It's for snobby people. And for a couple decades, I barely drank wine. And then I found out about Winc, and I probably had more wine in the last 2 or 3 years than I've had my whole life put together. Honestly, and I love Winc. Now, that's spelled W-I-N-C, and they are a wine club targeting a new generation of wine drinkers like me who want to do away with all that pretense and simply enjoy reasonably priced wine. Now, Winc custom tailors wine to the tastes of you and delivers 3 bottles of wine each month to your doorstep for $39 plus a flat $6 shipping rate. So, when you start out, all you have to do is visit Winc, and where you want to go is trywinc.com/Jim. That's TRYWINC.com/Jim, and take their 20-second palate profile quiz to get instant wine recommendations based on your unique profile. Now, the price point for most wines is $13, so by signing up and taking advantage of this offer, $25 credit, that's going to get you some significant wine. You're going to love it. We just had, I believe, was Atavist. The other night we had a little campfire, our own little campfire in the backyard with some friends, and we had a bottle of Atavist, I believe was the name of it. I really enjoy Winc. I think you will too. Now, there's 2 ways to receive this $25 credit and free shipping on 4 bottles of wine on your first order. There's 2 ways to do it. TryWinc.com/Jim. That's TRYWINC.com/Jim. Or, even easier, they've rolled out a new way specifically for us. All you have to do is text my name, Jim, J-I-M, nothing else, no last name, Jim, to this number, 25829. Again, text Jim to 25829 for the same offer. And it is a great deal. I love Winc. I look forward to my shipments. I enjoy wine now, whereas before it was kind of like, that's not for me. But it is for me. It's for everybody who enjoys a nice, responsible drink with dinner or with friends or around your own campfire. Check it out. Text Jim to 25829 to get that special deal. Thanks, Wink. We're back on the crime scene. Our guest is Shawn Attwood. The subject is hard time, which Shawn has served, and he's telling us about what it's like on the inside. Now, in terms of the social structure in the prison, you talked a little bit about the gangs. Tell us more about how that works.
As soon as you go in, they explain all of the rules to you. So low-level members will come up to you. They'll ask you what your charges are. And then either they'll explain the rules or the guy running your building will explain the rules. So basically, you can't sit with the other races. Otherwise, they'll smash you. You can't go talking to the guards, making friends with the guards. Otherwise, they'll smash you for being a snitch. You must take showers or they'll smash you for bad hygiene. You must go out to all of the white boy meetings. Otherwise, they'll smash you for not showing up to them. And so on and so on and so forth. There's all these rules that if you violate them, you know, it's you're going to get beat down or you could even get murdered. So you got to learn how the gang wants you to behave versus how the guards want you to behave, because those rules conflict each other. And, you know, you can get your stay extended if you violate the guards' rules. So it's really tricky for a person going in. All these rules are conflicting to kind of behave in a way that's going to satisfy everybody. But over time, once you learn the ropes, you do learn to kind of play around all of these rules. And, you know, I had a black friend who was towards the end of it when I was in a lower security level, and I couldn't have got away with that when I first went in. I would have got beat down.
And it is different depending on whether you're in maximum security, medium security. Talk to us a little bit about the different levels and kind of where you were at on that chain.
Yeah, I did every single security level. And the rules, the gang rules, are more enforced in the higher security levels where people are doing more time. Everybody kind of knows everybody. And the gang is structured in a more solid fashion than at the lower security levels where people are doing shorter sentences and it's more of a transitory environment. The highest security level I did was super maximum. Now what happened was I was fighting my case for 26 months and the prosecutor, she pulled out a number of dirty tricks on me. A final farewell to me was she accidentally put my 9.5-year sentence down as 34 years to the state prison system. So I was fast-tracked over to Supermax in Florence, Arizona, with the most violent, dangerous prisoners, including death row. My neighbor was a serial killer, and my cellmate was a Satanist. He's got a satanic pentagram tattooed on his forehead. In for murder, part of a cult that's drinking blood and eating human body parts. And he was actually very nice to me. I didn't have a problem with him. It took about 3 or 4 months for me to get my sentence sorted out to where I should have been, medium security. My first cellmate over there was a serial home invader torturer. He'd been breaking into people's houses and taking hammers to their kneecaps. And his welcoming statement to me was, I've got a padlock and a sock. I can smash your brains in while you sleep. I can kill you whenever I want. He didn't like me from the get-go because I was a new prisoner. He wanted an old con. And he's the one who got his mate, the 20-stone biker, to attack me just when my parents had flown over to visit me for Christmas. So I have no idea. I'm all excited walking to this visit. Big guy sneaks up behind me, bam, starts kidney punching. All the prisoners stop to see my reaction because gang rule is you must hit back or else you're a punk and everyone's going to prey on you. But if you do hit back in the guard seat, you get sent to lockdown and you lose all of your privileges, including your visits. So I had no choice anyway. I spun around, started throwing some kicks and punches. It was like hitting a big bag of cement. This guy knew kickboxing, so he smashed me up, knocked me down. I ended up going to the visit all injured. Mum asked what's wrong, and I couldn't say because she had a nervous breakdown over my situation. When I get back from the visit, My cellmate, he's getting higher on heroin and crystal meth and acting crazy towards me. He's even showing me the padlock in the sock that he's going to smash my skull in with. I got so scared, it was the only time I called for outside help. I called my family and said, look, can you put a call into the British Embassy? See if they'll call the prison and try and get me moved, because I think this guy's going to try and kill me. But they can't say anything I've said that would get him in trouble, because that'll make me a snitch. And it's KOS for snitches. Everyone's going to want to kill me. Fortunately, I was moved without getting him any trouble. He was throwing batteries for a couple of weeks afterwards at me. But that ended after I got a new cellmate who had some words with him. And this guy also introduced me to a mafia character called Two Tonys, who was serving over 140 years, who took me under his wing and started to protect me.
Now, ostensibly, the idea of prison is supposed to be rehabilitation. Did you see any rehabilitation going on the inside?
What they do is they have token rehabilitation programs, which are contracts given to friends and associates of people high up in the prison hierarchy, making money off the backs of prisoners. And they're just handouts of taxpayers' money. Everyone's going through the motions with these programs. In reality, it is completely drug and gang-infested mayhem. All the day revolved around for 90% of the prisoners was getting the heroin in and the crystal meth and shooting up drugs. And it's really sad because, you know, society takes people with addiction issues or young people on drugs. Back then, if you look at the most arrests in America, they were young people with weed. A lot of black people, a lot of Mexican people. Not dealers, just possession. And they end up in a prison where they're so scared of the gangs, they click up with the gangs and they get introduced to shooting up the hardest drugs. And it turns these people into real criminals. They end up making their criminal connections in prison. And everyone I saw, they just got out and they just came right back.
So when you got out, what was that like? Because I've got to think that's an adjustment too. I mean, you're at total mercy of your fellow inmates and the prison guards and so forth, and then somebody opens the jail door and says, there you go. I mean, what was that like?
Well, in Arizona, that's what they do. They open the jail door, they give you $50, and they say, there you go. But in my case, I had to get deported. So I was on Con Air for a few days, going across Arizona and California. Then I got put on a regular flight from LA to London. And just to get unhandcuffed and get put on this plane and get spoke to like I was a human being instead of being an animal, it was amazing. And then I hadn't slept in days. I was so excited. Got back to London. My mum and dad are there, my sister, and they're all, you know, my sister and my mum's crying. And they took me out for Indian food right away, but because of the Red Death with the dead rats in it in the jail, you know, to this day I've remained vegetarian. So my mum said then I was a bit like a puppy dog falling around the house waiting for orders. I was institutionalized, and it took a year and a half before I got my head straight, moved down to London and got employed as a public speaker and as an author, and that sent my life now in this whole new positive direction.
And there's always a concern about recidivism. I'm assuming you have no desire whatsoever to go back to your former ways.
I saw the horror of what drug use led to, and a therapist helped me go deep inside myself and address the root causes of why I was taking drugs. I didn't realize that for over 10 years I'd been self-medicating for PTSD from the trauma of almost getting beat to death as a teenager. And, you know, I read over 1,000 books in just under 6 years while incarcerated, including a lot of philosophy and a lot of psychology. And I still fall back on that stuff to this day. It's given me a framework in my brain to stay on this positive track and to help young people. I do yoga, I do meditation, you know, and I hope that influencing these young people is restoring my karma from the harm I caused to society by dealing ecstasy.
Now, so today, describe to us specifically the thing that I'm interested in is your work with young people and what you're doing in that regard in terms of speaking to them and telling them, don't go in the direction I went into.
do over 100 talks a year at schools and colleges across the UK, sometimes Europe. And I speak to 200-300 students at a time. And I just go in and say, I'm here to tell my story. And they, once I get into the jail conditions, they're on the edge of their seats. At the end, I give them all of the consequences I faced of getting involved in drugs, such as my mum having a nervous breakdown, criminal record, how hard it is to get a job and things like that. And I speak at schools in rundown areas where kids are already dealing drugs and there's gang members. And I speak at some of the most expensive independent schools in the country, because drugs is the great equalizer, affects people from all walks of life. And, no matter where I talk, I just get positive feedback. The schools generally invite me back. And I even get parents requesting to meet me. One set of parents said they're lucky if they could get a grunt off their kid when he come home from school. But after my talk, he wouldn't shut up about it. And it was the first time they could sit down and talk to their son about drugs. Another kid, she was so inspired, she went on to university to do a degree in criminology. And I've met her and her parents, and they want me to go to her graduation towards the end of this year. So just things like that really make me happy in my heart and tell me that I'm on the right path.
So you've written a series of books. Tell us about those and how people can find them.
Okay, my life story is a trilogy. It's chronologically, it's Party Time, which was all the criminal stuff I did, all the parties and the insane behavior. Hard Time, we've just done a new version of Hard Time, which is over 100 pages longer than the original. So it's Hard Time, new edition. And then Prison Time is my time in the state prison after the jail. Hard Time is my time in the jail. All available on Amazon. And in addition to that, now I've written a series of books called my War on Drugs series. My first book was about Pablo Escobar, and that was an instant bestseller on Amazon. The second one is about Barry Seal. He's a CIA cocaine-flying pilot whose story Tom Cruise is starring in the movie. The trailer just came out this week. American Made, the movie. It's coming out in September. I've got a book coming out about the Cali cartel in a couple of months, timed with Narcos Season 3, which is about them. And earlier this year, I also wrote a book called Unmaking a Murderer about the Making a Murderer series on Netflix. And I have been in contact with the family members, and I think both of those guys are completely innocent, and they've been set up by corrupt authorities.
And it's interesting on Making a Murderer. I've had an interview with both the prosecutor and the defense attorney, so it's really interesting to kind of hear the different perspectives on that one. Absolutely. Well, it's been great. Where can people go to get those books and learn more about what you do?
Well, thanks, Jim. If you go on Amazon or Google and just put in my name, Shaun Attwood, ShaunAtt Wood. On Amazon, all my books will come up. And on Google, that will take you to my Facebook, my Twitter, my YouTube channel, and all my social media. And people sometimes say to me, Shaun, how can this stuff be real in Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail? Like prisoners murdering prisoners, and even guards murdering mentally ill prisoners. And what I say to them is, go to my YouTube channel and watch it for yourself, because I've got videos, camera footage from security cameras of guards and gang members murdering prisoners in the jail I was at.
My goodness. Well, our guest has been Shaun Attwood. His book, Hard Time, the new edition, is out along with his other books of his trilogy, and we're so glad to have him with us. Shaun, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Jim. It's been great.
Thanks for tuning into The Crime Scene. I hope you enjoyed that program as much as I did. I really like this show, and it is growing. We'd like to grow faster, so if you're part of any online communities where people are interested in true crime, please do spread the word. If you have any friends as well who are interested in these subjects, we'd appreciate it. We want to grow the audience so we can get bigger and bigger and bigger guests and continue to provide the content. We thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time, and as always, be careful out there. Bye-bye, everybody.